Hello and welcome to another fly tying session with your host Scott. In this session we're going to be tying a nymph pattern, just for a change. I do know we've been doing a lot of wet flies lately, but there's a good reason for that. I've been enjoying my wet fly fishing on a large reservoir for wild brown trout, so there we go. So and we've been quite limited in where we can go at the moment because of our syndicate lake has been closed, but I am going to try some nymph patterns there, and I've spotted a nymph pattern that I really like, and it's called the Baetis Nymph, and hopefully the end product will look like this one. This is the Baetis Nymph, and it's in this book here, the Fly Tying Bible by Gathercole. So to tie the fly, I'm going quite small. I've got a size 14, but it's a fairly long shank, so you get the right proportions for a nymph. It's not 2x long; it's 1x long, and it's the Camazon B830 in size 14. For the tail and the beard hackle, we're going to need some partridge. This is a whole partridge that I had off the internet. It was quite an expensive skin, and we're going to be using the feathers along the back that look a bit like that. They're brown and they've got black bars in them. That's for the tail and the beard. For the body, we're going to be using a blend. So we've got a bit of natural rabbit here, and we're going to use the grey underfur. And then I've got some grey squirrel that I've dyed olive and then scraped off the skin with a wire brush. And I'm going to mix those two dubbins together. For the rib, we're going to need, I'm using an invisible thread here. It's actually a type of monofilament that sewers use. You could get away with your usual leader material if you wanted to use that. And it produces a rib that's practically invisible. I've got to be honest with you, I have tied one earlier. And that's what it's come out like. I don't know what this is, the first time I've tied one, so it's not looking too bad, but we're going to try and tie another one on camera. I did add a little bit of weight to that one. The original pattern doesn't have any weight, and to add weight we're going to need some fine lead wire. That's the finest. It's a bulk spool, that one, and it looks like it's about 0.3 millimeters thick. The thread, I'm using a rusty dun thread by Uni, which is about the right colour really for the fly. The original pattern calls for a cul de canard thorax cover. Now I'm not a big fan of using cul de canard for a nymph, I've got to be honest with you, so I'm going with a very similar material, but it's not as fluffy. It's the same colour. This is a pheasant tail, but it's off a bird that's called a blue top pheasant, and rather than the tail feathers being brown, they're like grey, so we're going to use that for the thorax cover. And then for the thorax itself, you just use more of the dubbing, but you use a bit more of it. Okay, so there we are. I've explained what materials we're going to be using. So we're going to come in and lay some thread on the hook. It's a really nice thread, this one. I do like the colour of it. You can use just a bog standard grey thread if you wanted to. I'm going to go to where the bend starts. Oops. Which on this particular hook is just in front of where the barb starts by the looks of it. And trim away. Then we're going to get a bunch of partridge off the feather that I've plucked. I'm going to tie that bunch in. You want the tail to be fairly short, you don't want it too long. Probably about the length of the body maybe, up to the thorax. That's it. And then you're going to get your bit of invisible thread or fine mono. tie a length of that in. You barely see this rib once it's tied, so I think it's just there to hold it together really more than anything else. And then we're going to tidy up. And then put that in the material clip out of the way. Now I'm going to put the lead in at this point, because on the other one I put the lead in after I'd dubbed. So I'll take the thread back to the bend, and you only want 3 turns of the lead. And you need to leave enough room for your head, so I'll go in about there. 1, 2 and 3. And then get some really bad scissors and trim away. Don't use your good scissors for this. And then make sure there's no lead sticking out. Push it in with the end of your scissors. There we go. We've left the head length there. So then we're going to mix the dubbing. So you're going to put a generous clump. Remove the guard hairs. And then put that on your desk. Then we're going to get some of the squirrel. It's about half and half. And then just start to mix it together between finger and thumb like this. Until it's all amalgamated together basically. And that I think will do us. And then apply to your thread. And you want to try and create a tapered body. That turned out to be the perfect amount of dubbing. It's not very often you get that. You count your lucky stars when that happens, especially when you're doing it on camera. And then we're going to rib. The thread practically disappears. I did think about using black wire, but I'm trying to stick to the pattern that's in the book. There you are, and then tie that in, leaving enough room to tie your thorax cover in. And trim away. Then you're going to get your blue top pheasant tail. Now there's a dark side and there's a light side. It's up to you which way around you do it. I think I'm going to choose the dark side. And no, Darth Vader isn't my father. too much. I'll tie that in. You want to make sure it's right on the top of the hook. It'll make things a lot easier for you. And trim away. You just want to put a few turns over the lead just to lock it in and then go back. And then we're going to get the rest of our dubbing that we made up. You want to dub this on fairly loosely, you want it quite prominent at the thorax. There we go. And bring your thorax cover over. Tie that in. And you can trim that away at this point. And then we're just going to flip it over. It's a rough and ready looking nymph, but I'm sure it'll catch fish because of that. But you can tidy it up a bit if you want to, just for aesthetic reasons. So you want another bunch of partridge. To make your beard. So you pop it in there just under the eye of the hook, loose turn, and then drop it in. Trim as close as you can, otherwise it'll cover the eye. And flip it back over. And then just tidy the head up. I mean, you don't need to do much with it by the looks of it. I need to give it a haircut. And then come in a whip finish. There we go. And that is the Baetis Nymph. Or my interpretation of the pattern in the book anyway. Like I say, I'm not using Coulter Canard to do a thorax cover. It's too expensive to do that. And I've got materials that will do the same job. And there we are. That is the Baetis Nymph. Thank you all very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.